Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session for Beyond Shakespeare, where today we are looking at the second section of the Duchess of Malfi, a very famous play by John Webster. Today we are going to be starting at Act 2, Scene 4, and if you have not yet seen the first part of our exploring session, then do have a rummage on YouTube. You will find part 1. Helping me wade through this classic play, we have this wonderful selection of readers, which I will introduce to you now. Reading Second Officer and Silvio today we have...
Hello, my name is Lynn. I am coming to you from the Pacific Northwest of the United States.
Reading the titular Duchess as well as Delio we have...
Lois in London.
Reading the Cardinal and First Pilgrim...
Aliki in Greece.
Reading Antonio. We have Rachel. Yeah, thank you. Reading Bosola.
Brian Myers, Portland, Oregon, USA.
Reading Ferdinand and Churchmen today we have.
Hi, I'm Emma Kemp. I'm an actor and I'm in London.
Reading Julia Cariola, Pescara and Second Pilgrim we have.
Cariola. Sue in Norwich, England.
Reading Servant First Officer and Malatesti we have.
Mark in the Midwest United States.
Have I missed anybody out? No, that's splendid. Right, and I am your host, Sarah Blake. I am going to be reading the stage directions, stepping in for Rob, who is temporarily absent today, and I'll also be randomly reading in a couple of officers. So it's quite a famous play, this one. So far, if you haven't been keeping up with the first part, the Duchess, who has been widowed, has secretly married her love, and they're very much in love with each other, and they've had a baby. And so it's all going really, really well. Everything's lovely. And what could possibly go wrong? Nothing, surely. We shall find out. We start with Act 2, Scene 4. Enter the Cardinal and Julia.
Sit. Thou art my very best of wishes. Thou art my best... Excuse me, let me try that again. It was the first line. What a shame to garble it. Sit. Thou art my best of wishes. Prithee, tell me, what trick didst thou invent to come to Rome without thy husband?
Why, my lord, I told him I came to visit an old anchorite here for devotion.
Thou art a witty, false one. I mean to him.
You have prevailed with me beyond my strongest thoughts. I would not now find you inconstant.
Do not put thyself to such a voluntary torture which proceeds out of your own guilt.
How, my lord?
You fear my constancy because you have approved those giddy and wild turnings in yourself.
Did you e'er find them?
Sooth, generally for women, a man might strive to make glass malleable ere he should make them fixed.
So, my lord.
We had need go borrow that fantastic glass invented by Galileo the Florentine to view another spacious world in the moon and look to find a constant woman there.
This is very well, my lord.
Why do you weep? Are tears your justification? The self-same tears will fall into your husband's bosom, lady, with a loud protestation that you love him above the world. Come, I'll love you wisely, that's jealously, since I am very certain you cannot make me a cuckold.
I'll go home to my husband.
You may thank me, lady. I have taken you off your melancholy perch, bore you upon my fist, and showed you game, and let you fly at it. I pray thee, kiss me. When thou wast with thy husband, thou wast watched like a tame elephant. Still you are to thank me. Thou hadst only kisses from him, and high feeding. Delight was that. 'Twas just like one that hath a little fingering on the lute, yet cannot tune it. Still you are to thank me.
You told me of a pious wound in the heart and a sick liver when you wooed me first, and spake that one in physic.
Who's that?
And enter servant.
Rest firm, for my affection to thee, lightning moves slow to it.
Madam, a gentleman that's come post from Malfi desires to see you.
Let him enter. I'll withdraw.
And the Cardinal exits.
He says your husband, old Castruccio, is come to Rome, most pitifully tired with riding post.
Exit servant and enter Delio.
Signor Delio, 'tis one of my old suitors.
I was bold to come and see you.
Sir, you are welcome.
Do you lie here?
Sure, your own experience will satisfy you, no? Our Roman prelates do not keep lodging for ladies.
Very well. I have brought you no commendations from your husband, for I know none by him.
I hear he's come to Rome.
I never knew man and beast of a horse and a knight so weary of each other. If he had had a good back, he would have undertook to abhor his horse. His breech was so pitifully sore.
Your laughter is my pity.
Lady, I know not whether you want money, but I have brought you some.
From my husband?
No, from mine own allowance.
I must hear the condition ere be bound to take it.
Look on it. 'Tis gold. Hath it not a fine color?
I have a bird more beautiful.
Try the sound on't.
A lute string far exceeds it. It hath no smell, like cassia or civet, nor is it physical, though some fond doctors persuade us seethe to the calluses. I'll tell you, this is a creature bred by...
And enter servant.
Your husband's come, hath delivered a letter to the Duke of Calabria that, to my thinking, hath put him out of his wits.
And exit servant.
Sir, you hear, pray. Let me know your business and your suit, as briefly as can be.
With good speed. I would wish you, at such time as you are non-resident with your husband, my mistress.
Sir, I'll go ask my husband if I shall, and straight return your answer.
And exit Julia.
Very fine. Is this her wit or honesty that speaks thus? I heard one say the Duke was highly moved with a letter sent from Malfi. I do fear Antonio was betrayed. How fearfully shows his ambition now. Unfortunate fortune. They pass through whirlpools, and deep woes do shun, who the event weigh ere the action's done.
And we have the end of that scene with the exit of Delio. So, we're in Rome. How delightful. And there's hardly any plotting going on at all, really. There's hardly any kind of skullduggery occurring. Thoughts about that scene, please? Anyone want to leap in? Lois?
Yeah, there's an interesting account, actually, a letter written by, I think, the secretary to the Venetian ambassador, who said that in England, the actors loved to satirize the Catholic Church, and that he'd seen a scene with a cardinal dallying with his mistress, and I think it must have been this play.
Oh, yes.
Oh, they are in other plays.
Yeah, there are other plays too. Yeah.
What is this thing with cardinals? Nice red frocks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that must be it. Let's go Aliki and then Lynn.
That Cardinal, I mean, that's quite an approach. So, I've seduced you. Now that we know you're a slut, how are we going to talk about this?
Yeah. What a jerk, yeah.
Oh, the misogyny is just dripping off him.
It really is.
Yeah, he's a likable chap, isn't he? When he's not telling his sister that she shouldn't be remarrying, he's busy Yeah.
Because that's like lustful and bad.
Because that's lustful. That would be that would be unthinkable. Yes.
Under the cover of the church, what they can get away with.
Yes. Yes,
and
indeed.
I think that I've always thought these women, Julia, that how they duck and dive, and it's never going to go well. Which is the play? Is it The White Devil that has a character that kisses this?
Well, we haven't done that one yet. We have not done that one yet. So hold your fire. White Devil.
Don't tell them. Yes.
Yeah, we're staying with the Duchess of Malfi for now. And remember, folks, I know there's a temptation with this one because it's a little bit more famous than the usual obscure delights that we do. So more people have read it, but just remember there will be people watching this who might not have read it. There might be people in the room who haven't read it. So yes, Aliki, we don't want to spoil it for Aliki. So let's just stick to the scene in question. Lynn, did you have anything that you wanted to say?
I was just going to say, as far as the Cardinal goes, I mean, it was sort of a thing for English writers, English dramatists in particular, to criticize the Catholic Church or satirize the Catholic Church. But I mean, it's a fair cop. Every clergy from parish priest on up commonly had mistresses. Your parish priest, when England was a Catholic country, would have a housekeeper, and she was his common law wife, and everybody in the community knew that, and was fine with it. Popes kept their mistresses at the Vatican, and gave their illegitimate children church appointments. My nephew. So I mean, this is maybe a slightly exaggerated portrait of the venality of a cardinal, but maybe not that exaggerated.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a good point. Lois, do you want to come back on that?
No, actually, I was going to point out a couple of other things about the scene. I mean, one is that Delio offering Julia money is a kind of parallel to Ferdinand in the earlier act offering Bosola money. I mean, it's just an interesting.
Nice.
There are quite a lot of kind of repeat scenes or echoes, you might say, in the play. There's an awful lot about patterning. Yeah, the other bit, of course, is that anybody who was there yesterday will know that the letter that has just been delivered to Ferdinand is the one that Bosola said he was going to be sending by Castruccio, who was going the next day, because Bosola has been locked up on a suspicion of having poisoned the Duchess, which is just a trick to get him out of the way. That's why he's used Castruccio as his messenger. It's very, very, it's about 2 lines, but anyway, that's who wrote the letter, and so you can pretty much guess what's in it, since Bosola has discovered that the Duchess has had a child, although he doesn't know who the father is. He thinks that Antonio is simply a pimp or a go-between or something.
So the secret's about to be out of the bag then, or is out of the bag. Yes, yeah. Part of the secret. Brian.
Lois, you also alerted us yesterday when there was talk of a ring with a devil dancing in it, that we might keep an eye out for other circles with figures in them. And we saw another one in this scene with the telescope, with looking for a woman out in the universe somewhere who might be less corruptible than the ones down here. I don't know what to do with those circles yet, but we've seen several, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it is. And it's a really interesting reference to Galileo, which is extremely up to date. I mean, he published the Siderius Nuncius, the Starry Messenger, I think pretty much the same year as this play. I mean, he published a little before then, but this is, really topical stuff.
Yeah.
Especially given that the play is actually set in 1504, I think.
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah. So that wouldn't have, Galileo wouldn't have.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't.
Yeah. Wasn't he born the same year as that guy?
Yeah.
I don't know which guy you're referring to, but let's move on. We'll go into Act 2, Scene 5, if everybody's ready. Oh, and before we start Act 2, Scene 5, let's welcome Alan, who has appeared. Hi, Alan. So Alan is going to join us, and he is going to read the part of First Officer and Malatesti when those characters turn up. Okay, so Act 2, Scene 5, enter Cardinal and Ferdinand with a letter.
I have this night digged up a mandrake.
Say you?
And I am grown mad wit.
What's the prodigy?
There, a sister damned, She's loose i' the hilts, grown a notorious strumpet.
Speak lower.
Lower? Rogues do not whisper now, but seek to publish, as servants do the bounty of their lords, aloud, and with a covetous, searching eye to mark who note them. Oh, confusion seize her! She hath had most cunning bawds to serve her turn, and more secure conveyances for lust than towns of garrisons for service.
Is't possible? Can this be certain?
Rhubarb! Oh, for rhubarb to purge this choler! Here's the cursed day to prompt my memory, and here it shall stick till of her bleeding heart I make a sponge to wipe it out.
Why do you make yourself so wild a tempest?
Would I could be one, that I might toss her palace about her ears, root up her goodly forests, blast her meads, and lay her general territory as waste as she hath done her honours.
Shall our blood, the royal blood of Aragon and Castile, be thus attended?
Apply desperate physic. We must not now use balsamum, but fire! A smarting cupping glass, for that's the mean to purge infected blood, such blood as hers. There is a kind of pity in mine eye. I'll give it to my handkerchief, and now 'tis here, I'll bequeath this to her bastard.
Do!
Why? To make soft lint for his mother's wounds when I have hewed her to pieces.
Said creature, an equal nature to place women's hearts so far upon the left side.
Foolish men, that e'er will trust their honour in a bark made of so slight, weak bulrush as is woman, apt every minute to sink it.
Thus ignorance, when it hath purchased honour, cannot wield it.
Methinks I see her laughing. Excellent hyena, talk to me somewhat quickly, or my imagination will carry me to see her in the shameful act of sin.
With whom?
Happily with some strong-thighed bargeman, or one of the rudyard that can quoit the sledge or toss the bar, or else some lovely squire that carries coals up to her privy lodgings.
You fly beyond your reason.
Go to, mistress. 'Tis not your whore's milk that shall quench my wildfire, but your whore's blood.
How idly shows this rage which carries you as men conveyed by witches through the air on violent whirlwinds. This intemperate noise fitly resembles deaf men's shrill discourse, who talk aloud, thinking all other men to have their imperfection.
Have not you my palsy?
Yes, but I can be angry without this rupture. There is not in nature a thing that makes man so deformed, so beastly as doth intemperate anger. Chide yourself. You have diverse men who never yet expressed their strong desire of rest, but by unrest, by vexing of themselves. Come, put yourself in tune.
So I will only study to seem the thing I am not. I could kill her now, in you, or in myself. For I do think it is some sin in us heaven doth revenge by her.
Are you stark mad?
I would have their bodies burnt in a coal pit with the ventage stopped, that their cursed smoke might not ascend to heaven, or dip the sheets they lie in pitch or sulphur, wrap them in it, and then light them like a match, or else to boil their bastard to a cullis, and give his lecherous father to renew the sin of his back.
I'll leave you.
Nay, I have done. I am confident, had I been damned in hell, and should have heard of this, it would have put me in a cold sweat. In. I'll go sleep. Till I know who loves my sister, I'll not stir. That known, I'll find scorpions to string my whips, and fix her in a general eclipse.
And they exit, and that's the end of the scene.
Oh.
So we've got a perfectly rational and reasonable reaction by these brothers to their hearing of their sister's marriage. I mean, I don't see what the problem is, really. Lois.
They don't know that she's married. They think that she's had a child out of wedlock.
Oh, they think she's had it out of wedlock. Okay, well, even so, I feel, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, Alan.
Yeah, anyone for a game of Happy Families?
I mean, far be it from me to cut the Cardinal some slack, but you know, he was nowhere near there. Ferdinand is the one who's completely wild.
Ferdinand's really, yeah, this has got under his skin, hasn't it? Oh my Ferdinand.
Well,
Sue, yeah.
Well, there's this strange sexual. I mean, the sexual thing between him and his sister, and that whole bit when he talks about a poison sheet. It just reminded me of Medea. She organizes that veil for her love rival that is poisoned, that murders the new wife, doesn't it? And that just seemed to have that whole bit of Medea in there, which is a sexual jealousy. That Ferdinand's got an edge on.
Yeah, that's a very nice reference. Aliki, then Lois.
It's Hercules as well, and his wife, whose name I can never pronounce in English. She finds out he's cheating on her and makes him a cloak that sends him mad.
Well, she doesn't know that. She thinks it's going to make him love her again. But
yes. But that's, well, it depends on the version of the story.
Oh, I did not know that.
I mean, I know it's like that in the play, but in the myth, it's
Lois.
Could I ask?
Oh, I'll come back to you, Sue. Let's just go to Lois.
I just wanted to ask Lois something.
Oh, well, go ahead, because then Lois, you can answer both things.
What's wrong with having your heart too far to the left? I don't understand that.
It's on the sinister side, the heart lies, as someone says in The Two Noble Kinsmen.
I'm sorry, what was that?
By John Fletcher. That play by John Fletcher.
Right.
Yes. It's by Fletcher and someone else. On the sinister side, the heart lies. I mean, it's that idea that the left. I mean, the word sinister means left in Latin, and it suggests that's right and left are sort of symbolically different. So the idea that women's hearts are so far on the left, it just it's what's wrong with them. Yes, I wanted to point out another textual thing. When Ferdinand, right at the end, says, "Till I know who loves my sister, I'll not stir." It's not loves, it's leaps. This is another little bit of Bowdlerization.
Right, okay.
My sister,
right.
Which is the second time it's a Ferdinand line that's been cut to make it less dirty.
Yes. I completely missed one bit of expurgation actually in yesterday's thing. I didn't miss it, but I think I was concentrating on the earlier one at the time. But that's all that bit about the Switzer. It was even dirtier than it sounded when we read it. And that was just general gossip among the officers. But here it's Ferdinand's mind, which is a sort of cesspool. And anybody wanting to do an anthology of misogynistic comments could pretty much make it from this play, I think.
Whole volume,
yeah. Indeed, it's so edifying. Brian, was that a hand I saw there?
Yeah,
sort of?
I was just. I enjoyed Aliki's reading of the Cardinal when he says, "Are you stark mad?" Because in this scene, that was the only moment when something Ferdinand said actually began to get under his skin. And it's the imputation, not that there's anything wrong with the sister, but that there might be something wrong with him.
Very good.
You've noticed that, have you, Cardinal? Yeah. Okay. Right. He's such a sharp stick. Anyone got anything else to add? Lynn, yes.
Yeah, I was really enjoying the characterizations here, which is, I mean, I'm somewhat familiar with this play, not like Lois, but I mean, so Ferdinand is obviously just off the rails, and that's emphasized by the fact that his brother keeps saying, calm down, like take a deep breath, count to 10, whatever. But the Cardinal, I think, is coming off as much more controlled and kind of cold. He's decided to take this other man's wife as his mistress, but he's not really particularly romantic about it. He's like, you hoe and I got power and money. And remembering the production I saw at the Wanamaker, I mean, I really enjoyed that actor's performance. I mean, the Cardinal's very chilly.
In a way, I find him more sinister than Ferdinand. I mean, Ferdinand, don't get me wrong, Ferdinand really needs to go to a good therapist. I mean, like he is definitely like, he is a sad, strange little man and deeply disturbing. But I find the Cardinal, as in terms of like, plays and their villains, I'm almost finding the Cardinal more menacing because he's just so contained. Lois.
Yes, I was just going to remind you that in the first act, the Cardinal tells Ferdinand to hire Bosola as the spy, but he also says, I would not be seen in it, And, he likes to operate behind the scenes. So, it's a difference between the obvious villain, who is clearly half insane, and the cold, calculating one operating behind the scenes. Ferdinand is the part that was played by Burbage, incidentally, in the
original. That makes sense.
Right, yeah. So lots of chewing up the scenery there then. Sue.
Well, just rhubarb. I mean, what has Webster got about my favourite things, apricots and rhubarb? Why are they bred in shit? Is that what it is? Is it they are because that comes into the apricot bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a medical purgative, and he's just saying he wants to purge this collar, that rhubarb might be good for him.
Yeah, bring me rhubarb to get rid of this, yes.
Because he started by talking about mandrakes. I have this night digged up a mandrake, which is a really weird opening line. But the theory about that was that these things are supposed to grow near scaffolds. And if you pulled one up, it shrieked, and you probably went mad and died. And it's got to do with the fact that it's got a kind of bifurcated root, which looks vaguely like a human being. I mean, they were also kind of thought of in sexual terms, naturally. So there are weird stories about it. So that's what he's saying. I've gone mad because I've just digged up a mandrake, meaning I've just read this letter.
That's brilliant, though. Thank you.
I learned that from Harry Potter.
Lynn.
But we also have the madder root here in Norwich that makes a red dye, which is very the Cardinal's red.
Madder red.
Vegetables, they're all swirling around, aren't they?
He does like his fruit and veg, Webster. Lynn.
Yeah, and in the medieval and early modern period, laxatives were the cure for everything. In the way of like looking at the body, it's just purge. Didn't we just have it was one of the whole plays where a character is convinced that you're a little off, you need to purge, and he can't travel because he's
that's right,
purging.
Why rhubarb? Because if there's anything wrong with you, take a laxative and you'll feel better eventually.
Sore throat, have a purge. Headache, have a purge. Aliki.
So something's been niggling at me, which is the John Donne poem that says, "Nowhere lives a woman true and fair."
Yeah, that's right.
Which must be from about the same period.
Yeah.
Which also, sorry?
It's the one that begins, "Go and catch a falling
star, get with child," the mandrake root.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's some kind of mental connection between mandrakes and infidelity, or generally, or mandrakes and women being changeable or whatever.
They were considered to be aphrodisiacs, weren't they? I know this much just because of the shape. But I don't know.
People do sometimes compare Donne and Webster. I mean, the imagery is very similar, and the taste for kind of weird humor and morbid ideas and so on. Yeah.
I think John Donne likes women better.
Let's not go off on a John Donne tangent right now. Let's pull it back, and if everybody's done with that scene, which I have to say was a short scene but very, very chewy, so there was lots to talk about, but let's move on now. We're going on into Act 3. Scene 1, enter Antonio and Delio.
Our noble friend, most beloved Delio. Oh, you have been a stranger long at court. Come you along with Lord Ferdinand?
I did, sir. And how fares your noble Duchess?
Right, fortunately well. She's an excellent feeder of pedigrees. Since you last saw her, she hath had 2 children more, a son and a daughter.
Methinks 'twas yesterday. Let me but wink and not behold your face, which to mine eye is something leaner. Verily, I should dream it were within this half hour.
You have not been in the law, friend Delio, nor in prison, nor a suitor at the court, nor begged in the reversion of some great man's place, nor troubled with an old wife, which doth make your time so insensibly hasten.
Pray, sir, tell me, hath not this news arrived yet to the ear of the Lord Cardinal?
I fear it hath. The Lord Ferdinand, that's newly come to court, doth bear himself right dangerously.
Pray, why?
He is so quiet that he seems to sleep the tempest out, as dormice do in winter. Those houses that are haunted are most still till the devil be up.
What say the common people?
The common rabble do directly say she is a strumpet.
And your graver heads, which would be politic, what censure they?
They do observe I grow to infinite purchase the left-hand way, and all suppose the Duchess would amend it if she could, for say they, great princes, though they grudge their officers, should have such large and unconfined means to get wealth under them, will not complain, lest thereby they should make them odious unto the people. For other obligation of love or marriage between her and me, they never dream of.
The Lord Ferdinand is going to bed.
And to the Duchess, Ferdinand, and attendants.
I'll instantly to bed, for I am weary. I am to bespeak a husband for you.
For me, sir. Pray, who is it?
The great Count Malatesti.
Oh, fie upon him. A count. He's a mere stick of sugar candy. You may look quite through him. When I choose a husband, I will marry for your honor.
You shall do well in't. How is't, worthy Antonio?
But, sir, I am to have private conference with you about a scandalous report is spread touching mine honor.
Let me be ever deaf to it. one of Pasquille's paper bullets, court calumny, a pestilent air which princes' palaces are seldom purged of. Yet, say that it were true, I pour it in your bosom, my fixed love, would strongly excuse, extenuate, nay, deny faults, were they apparent in you. Go, be safe in your own innocency.
Oh, blessed comfort. This deadly air is purged.
And exit the Duchess, Antonio, Delio, and attendants.
Her guilt treads on hot-burning coulters.
Enter Bosola.
Now, Bosola, how thrives our intelligence?
Sir, uncertainly. 'Tis rumored she hath had 3 bastards, but by whom we may go read in the stars.
Why, some hold opinion all things are written there.
Yes, if we could find spectacles to read them. I do suspect there has been some sorcery used on the Duchess.
Sorcery? To what purpose?
To make her dote on some desertless fellow she shames to acknowledge.
Can your faith give way to think there's power in potions or in charms to make us love whether we will or no?
Most certainly.
Away! These are mere gulleries, horrid things invented by some cheating mountebanks to abuse us. Do you think that herbs or charms can force the will? Some trials have been made in this foolish practice, but the ingredients were lenitive poisons, such as are of force to make the patient mad, and straight the witch swears by equivocation they are in love. The witchcraft lies in her rank blood. This night I will force confession from her. You told me you had got, within these 2 days, a false key into her bedchamber.
I have.
As I would wish.
What do you intend to do?
Can you guess?
No.
Do not ask then. He that can compass me and know my drifts may say he hath put a girdle about the world and sounded all her quicksands.
I do not think so.
What do you think then, pray?
That you are your own chronicle too much, and grossly flatter yourself.
Give me thy hand. I thank thee. I never gave pension but to flatterers till I entertained thee. Farewell. That friend a great man's ruin strongly checks, who rails into his belief all his defects.
And they exit. And that's the end of the scene. So, I mean, we're stopping to talk a lot about these little scenes because, I mean, they're quite short scenes, but there's a lot packed into them. But this is actually, you know, when you see this, I've never actually seen Malfi in production, but when you do, I can imagine that it's very, very, this is flowing along at quite a rate here. You've got like these very short to the point scenes packed full of information, and there must be like a real sense of momentum that's generated, I would imagine, by these interchanges. Alan, let's start with you. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean the scenes in themselves do have a lot of momentum. They're all fast moving. There's not many surplus words, which is nice. You know, although it's not a short play, it's not actually padded. But what has got me is the time jumps that we've got between the acts. Because I think Act 2 is probably something like 9 months or a year after the Act 1. And then it looks like there's another 2-year gap in the interval between 2 and 3.
Well, possibly. You mean because of the rumor about the fact that she's had 3 children? Yeah. I mean, so, yeah. Lois, let me give this to you.
Oh, well, she has had 3 children because Antonio says so to Delio. She's had 2 children more,
Right.
Son and daughter. It's possible that they were twins, but she doesn't say that. But yeah, so clearly there is a time thing. And you notice Delio says, "I think it was yesterday," and really, rubs your nose at the fact that this is unbelievable. He says, if I weren't looking at you and could see you look a bit older, I would have sworn it was within this half hour, which of course it was. I mean, is this a joke
Nice.
or what?
Nice meta joke there. I mean, it could be twin. I mean, given that, am I misremembering? Because I wasn't here for yesterday's session. Aren't Ferdinand and the Duchess, aren't they twins?
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later. But
okay. I've kicked a hornet's nest there. But it's possible they could be twins. I'm just thinking like there could be a year after the first act and then a year after the second one, maybe.
Doesn't matter,
I don't know, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's still a long time. Yeah,
it's a big jump. But I mean, you've got to think that I guess between the acts there would have been like a bit of a break anyway. Maybe I don't know.
Have been this was done both at the Globe and Blackfriars, and at the Blackfriars there would have been music between the acts. At the Globe, it might have just flowed straight on.
Okay, so well. Who knows? But yes, there has definitely been a jump in time. But I mean, I don't think this. I'm always coming at these things of how do you stage them for a modern audience, and of course that's not such a big issue with this play because it has been staged quite a bit. But a modern audience is used to kind of watching TV and time jumps occurring. Scenes are being edited together so that you suddenly skip forward in time. I don't think they'd have a problem with this, would they? No, maybe. I don't think so. But maybe they would. Who knows? Anyone else got anything to add about this scene?
In some way, it's just compounding her sort of fecundity, isn't it? It's compounding that for the audience. And I've seen it many times, and it's never bothered me hugely, but it is odd.
I mean, you can take it. I mean, obviously, it's being her fecundity is being portrayed in a very bad light, within this scene. But I mean, also, it's just a sign that she really loves her husband. It's kind of quite sweet. They've had like maybe let's say three years. Of and they've clearly been very happily married, and this is the outcome. So it's like, I'm a sentimentalist probably, but
how are they going to deal with it? That's what the audience wants to know. Because, what are they going to think up now to victimize her?
There's that sense of that circle around her is starting to narrow, isn't it? It's starting to draw in around her, which is just like, oh dear. Anyone got anything else to add? Lynn?
Yeah, like Sarah just said, there's something very claustrophobic about this play. And the fecundity thing. I mean, I think that's very ambiguously portrayed. Generally, it's a good thing. It would be something associated with a loving marriage. But it's also every child increases her danger kind of exponentially. And there's a line here where Antonia says she's an excellent feeder of pedigrees. I remember that line as she's an excellent breeder of pedigrees.
No, it is feeder actually, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, I know it's a strange
Right.
line. Actually, it may well. I mean, it may different editions. I can see people might amend it to breeder.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like this. This is just this kind of little tangent that I always sort of go off on in my brain. It's like, how has Antonio like managed to keep? I mean, he's got 3 kids now. Like, how has he managed to keep it quiet that he is the father? Because the oldest one by this time will be running around like, daddy. I mean, toddlers, they have a habit of blurting things out. Like, what? How has no one found out about this yet? Anyway, that's by the by. Alan.
Yeah, I hadn't
Well,
even thought about that.
I think the answer on that one, Sarah, is the upper classes have always been prone to pushing the offspring well out of the way and until they're of sufficient maturity to be of some use.
Yeah, maybe.
So you wouldn't necessarily have toddlers underfoot in the family environment.
True, but there would be servants around the kids who could, do a bit of talking. I mean, that's what I mean. Is that he only needs to be seen by one person. He doesn't need to be seen by Ferdinand. He could be seen by.
I think the next scene may give you a bit of a clue on that one.
All right. Well, we will push on. I do think though there's an interesting in terms of staging this. There's a. And maybe someone's already seen a production where this has been done. I don't know, because as I said, I haven't actually seen it staged. But I think there might be virtue in a production in drawing out the kind of the family, talking of circles, the family circle, like, putting in evidence of it as much as is possible, just to contrast with this awful, as Lynn said, claustrophobic sort of inevitable, circle that is forming and shrinking and growing tighter and tighter around this happy family. I think there might be some virtue in maybe playing up the happy family aspect of the staging just to create even more of a contrast. I don't know. We'll see.
It really is
just
important, Sarah. When you see a production, there's always children in it. And they're really, that does happen.
This early on, though, I know there's children later on, but this early on, are there tend to be like evidence of babes?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I
can't remember.
It'd be quite nice to have
Lois,
teddy bear. You could have a teddy bear. You could have I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, maybe not a teddy bear, but you know what I'm talking about. Right, let's move on. Act 3, Scene 2. Enter Duchess, Antonio, and I can never know how you pronounce the name.
Cariola.
We have
Cariola.
Cariola.
Yeah,
Folks at home, you decide. Anyway, they enter.
Yeah. Bring me the casket hither and the glass. You get no lodging here tonight, my lord.
Indeed, I must persuade one.
Very good. I hope in time 'twill grow into a custom that noblemen shall come with cap and knee to purchase a night's lodging of their wives.
I must lie here.
Must. You are a lord of misrule.
Indeed, my rule is only in the night.
To what use will you put me?
We'll sleep together.
Oh, alas, what pleasure can 2 lovers find in sleep?
My lord, I lie with her often, and I know she'll much disquiet you.
See, you are complained of.
For she's the sprawlingest bedfellow.
I shall like her the better for that.
Sir, shall I ask you a question?
I pray thee, Cariola.
Wherefore still, when you lie with my lady, do you rise so early?
Laboring men count the clock oftenest, Cariola, are glad when their task's ended.
I'll stop your mouth.
And she kisses him.
Nay, that's but one. Venus had 2 soft doves to draw her chariot. I must have another.
She kisses him again.
Thou marry, Cariola?
Never, my lord.
Oh, fie upon this single life. Forgo it. We read how Daphne, for her peevish flight, became a fruitless bay tree. Syrinx turned to the pale empty reed. Anaxareta was frozen into marble. Whereas those which married, or proved kind unto their friends, were by a gracious influence transhaped into the olive, pomegranate, mulberry, became flowers, precious stones, or eminent stars.
This is a vain poetry, but I pray you, tell me, if there were proposed me wisdom, riches, and beauty in 3 several young men, which should I choose?
'Tis a hard question. This was Paris's case, and he was blind in it, and there was a great cause. For how was it possible he could judge right, having 3 amorous goddesses in view, and they stark naked? 'Twas a motion that were able to benight the apprehension of the severest counselor of Europe. Now I look upon both your faces, so well formed, it puts me on a mind of a question I would ask.
What is't?
I do wonder why hard-favored ladies, for the most part, keep worse-favored waiting women to attend them, and cannot endure fair ones.
Oh, that's soon answered. Did you ever in your life know an ill painter desire to have his dwelling next door to the shop of an excellent picture maker? 'Twould disgrace his face-making and undo him. I prithee, when were we so merry? My hair tangles.
Pray thee, Cariola, let's steal forth the room, and let her talk to herself. I have divers times served her the like, when she hath chafed extremely. I love to see her angry. Softly, Cariola.
And exit Antonio and Cariola.
Doth not the colour of my hair begin to change? When I wax grey, I shall have all the court powder their hair with arras to be like me. You have cause to love me. I entered you into my heart before you would vouchsafe to call for the keys. We shall one day have my brothers take you napping. Methinks his presence, being now in court, should make you keep your own bed. But you'll say love mixed with fear is sweetest. I'll assure you, you shall get no more children till my brothers consent to be your gossips. Have you lost your tongue? Ah, 'tis welcome. For know, whether I am doomed to live or die, I can do both like a prince.
Die, then, quickly.
Giving her a poniard.
Virtue, where art thou hid? What hideous thing is it that doth eclipse thee?
Pray, sir, hear me.
Or is it true thou art but a bare name, and no essential thing?
Sir.
Do not speak.
No, sir, I will plant my soul in mine ears to hear you.
Oh, most imperfect light of human reason, that makest us so unhappy to foresee what we can least prevent. Pursue thy wishes and glory in them. There's in shame no comfort, but to be past all bounds and sense of shame.
I pray, sir, hear me. I am married.
So?
Happily not to your liking, but for that, alas, your shears do come untimely now to clip the bird's wings that's already flown. Will you see my husband?
Yes, if I could change eyes with a basilisk.
Sure you came hither by his confederacy.
The howling of a wolf is music to thee, screech owl. Prithee, peace. Whate'er thou art, thou hast enjoyed my sister, for I am sure thou hearest me. For thine own sake, let me not know thee. I came hither prepared to work thy discovery, yet am now persuaded it would beget such violent effects as would damn us both. I would not for 10 millions I had beheld thee. Therefore, use all means, I never may have knowledge of thy name. Enjoy thy lust still and a wretched life on that condition. And for thee, vile woman, if thou do wish thy lecher may grow old in thy embracements, I would have thee build such a room for him as our anchorites to holier use inhabit. Let not the sun shine on him till he's dead. Let dogs and monkeys only converse with him, and such dumb things whom nature denies use to sound his name. Do not keep a parakeeto, lest she learn it. If thou do love him, cut out thine own tongue, lest it bewray him.
Why might not I marry? I have not gone about in this to create any new world or custom.
Thou art undone, and thou hast ta'en that massy sheet of lead that hid thy husband's bones, and folded it about my heart.
Mine bleeds for it.
Thine? Thy heart? What should I name it, unless a hollow bullet filled with unquenchable wildfire?
You are in this too strict, and were you not my princely brother, I would say too willful. My reputation is safe.
Dost thou know what reputation is? I'll tell thee, to small purpose, since the instruction comes now too late. Upon a time, reputation, love, and death would travel all the world, and it was concluded that they should part and take 3 several ways. Death told them they should find him in great battles, or cities plagued with plague. Love gives them counsel to inquire for him amongst unambitious shepherds where dowries were not talked of, and sometimes amongst quiet kindred that had nothing left by their dead parents. Stay, quoth reputation, do not forsake me, for it is my nature, if once I part from any man I meet, I am never found again. And so for you. You have shook hands with reputation and made him invisible. So, fare you well. I will never see you more.
Why should only I, of all the other princes of the world, be cased up like a holy relic? I have youth and a little beauty.
So you have some virgins that are witches. I will never see thee more.
And Ferdinand exits. Enter Antonio with a pistol and Cariola.
You saw this apparition?
Yes, we are betrayed. How came ye hither? I should turn this to thee for that.
Pray, sir, do. And when that you have cleft my heart, you shall read there mine innocence.
That gallery gave him entrance.
I would this terrible thing would come again, that standing on my guard I might relate my warrantable love.
And she shows them the poniard.
Ah, what means this?
He left this with me.
And it seems did wish you would use it on yourself.
His action seemed to intend so much.
This hath a handle to it, as well as a point. Turn it towards him, and so fasten the keen edge on his rank gall.
And there is a knocking within.
How now, who knocks? More earthquakes?
I stand as if a mine beneath my feet were ready to be blown up.
'Tis Bosola.
Away! Oh, misery! Methinks unjust actions should wear these masks and curtains, and not we. You must instantly part hence. I have fashioned it already.
Exit Antonio, enter Bosola.
The Duke, your brother, is taken up in a whirlwind, hath took horse and rid post to Rome.
So late?
He told me as he mounted into the saddle, you were undone.
Indeed, I am very near it.
What's the matter?
Antonio, the master of our household, hath dealt so falsely with me in his accounts. My brother stood engaged with me for money taken up of certain Neapolitan Jews, and Antonio lets the bonds be forfeit.
Strange. This is cunning.
And hereupon my brother's bills at Naples are protested against. Call up our officers.
I shall.
And exit Bosola, enter Antonio.
The place that you must fly to is Ancona. Hire a house there. I'll send after you my treasure and my jewels. Our weak safety runs upon enginous wheels. Short syllables must stand for periods. I must now accuse you of such a feigned crime as Tasso calls magnanima mensonia, a noble lie, because it must shield our honors. Hark, they're coming.
And to Bosola and officers.
Will your grace hear me?
I've got well by you. You have yielded me 1,000,000 of loss. I'm like to inherit the people's curses for your stewardship. You had the trick in audit time to be sick till I had signed your quietus, and that cured you without help of a doctor. Gentlemen, I would have this man be an example to you all. So shall you hold my favor. I pray, let him, for he's done that, alas, you would not think of. And because I intend to be rid of him, I mean not to publish. Use your fortune elsewhere.
I am strongly armed to brook my overthrow, as commonly men bear with a hard year. I will not blame the cause on it, but do think the necessity of my malevolent star procures this, not her humor. Oh, the inconstant and rotten ground of service! You may see 'tis even like him that in the winter night takes a long slumber o'er a dying fire, loath to part from it, yet parts thence as cold as when he first sat down.
We do confiscate towards the satisfying of your accounts all that you have.
I am all yours, and 'tis very fit all mine should be so too.
So, sir, you have your pass.
You may see, gentlemen, what 'tis to serve a prince with body and soul.
Exit Antonio.
Thank you.
Here's an example for extortion. What moisture is drawn out of the sea when foul weather comes, pours down and runs into the sea again.
I would know what are your opinions of this Antonio?
He could not abide to see a pig's head gaping. I thought your grace would find him a Jew.
That's me as well. I would you had been his officer for your sake. You would have had more money.
He stopped his ears with black wool, and to those who came to him for money, said he was thick of hearing.
Some said he was a hermaphrodite, for he could not abide a woman.
How scurvy proud he would look when the treasury was full. Well, let him go.
Yeah, and the chippings of the butterfly fly after him to scour his gold chain.
Leave us.
And the officers exit.
What do you think of these?
That these are rogues, that in his prosperity, but to have waited on his fortune, could have wished his dirty stirrup riveted through their noses, and followed after his mule, like a bear in a ring, would have prostituted their daughters to his lust, made their firstborn intelligencers, thought none happy but such as were born under his blessed planet, and wore his livery. And do these lice drop off now? Well, never look to have the like again. He hath left a sort of flattering rogues behind him. Their doom must follow. Princes pay flatterers in their own money. Flatterers dissemble their vices, and they dissemble their lies. That's justice. Alas, poor gentleman.
Poor? He hath amply filled his coffers.
Sure, he was too honest. Pluto, the god of riches, when he's sent by Jupiter to any man, he goes limping to signify that wealth that comes on God's name comes slowly. But when he's sent on the devil's errand, he rides post and comes in by scuttles. Let me show you what a most unvalued jewel you have in a wanton humor thrown away. To bless the man shall find him. He was an excellent courtier and most faithful, a soldier that thought it as beastly to know his own value too little as devilish to acknowledge it too much. Both his virtue and form deserved a far better fortune. His discourse rather delighted to judge itself than show itself. His breast was filled with all perfection, and yet it seemed a private whispering room, it made so little noise of it.
But he was basely descended.
Will you make yourself a mercenary herald rather to examine men's pedigrees than virtues? You shall want him. For know an honest statesman to a prince is like a cedar planted by a spring. The spring bathes the tree's root, the grateful tree rewards it with his shadow. You have not done so. I would sooner swim to the Bermudas on 2 politicians' rotten bladders, tied together with an intelligencer's heartstring, than depend on so changeable a prince's favour. Fare thee well, Antonio, since the malice of the world would needs down with thee, it cannot be said yet that any ill happened unto thee, considering thy fall was accompanied with virtue.
Oh, you render me excellent music.
Say you so?
This good one that you speak of is my husband.
Do I not dream? Can this ambitious age have so much goodness in it as to prefer a man merely for worth, without these shadows of wealth and painted honors? Possible?
I've had 3 children by him.
Fortunate lady, for you have made your private nuptial bed the humble and fair seminary of peace. No question but. Many an unbeneficed scholar shall pray for you for this deed, and rejoice that some preferment in the world can yet arise from merit. The virgins of your land that have no dowries shall hope your example will raise them to rich husbands. Should you want soldiers, 'twould make the very Turks and Moors turn Christians and serve you for this act. Last, the neglected poets of your time, in honor of this trophy of a man, raised by that curious engine your white hand, shall thank you in your grave for it, and make that more reverend than all the cabinets of living princes. For Antonio, his fame shall likewise flow from many a pen, when heralds shall want coats to sell to men.
As I taste comfort in this friendly speech, so would I find concealment.
Oh, the secret of my prince, which I will wear on the inside of my heart.
You shall take charge of all my coin and jewels and follow him, for he retires himself to Ancona,
So,
whither within few days I mean to follow thee.
let me think. I would wish your grace to feign a pilgrimage to Our Lady of Loreto, scarce 7 leagues from fair Ancona. So may you depart your country with more honor, and your flight will seem a princely progress, retaining your usual train about you.
Sir, your direction shall lead me by the hand.
In my opinion, she were better progress to the baths at Lucca, or go visit the spa in Germany, for if you will believe me, I do not like this jesting with religion, this feigned pilgrimage.
Oh, thou art a superstitious fool. Prepare us instantly for our departure. Past sorrows, let us moderately lament them. For those to come, seek wisely to prevent them.
And exit the Duchess and Cariola.
A politician is the devil's quilted anvil. He fashions all sins on him, and the blows are never heard. He may work in a lady's chamber, as here for proof. What rest but I reveal all to my lord? Oh, this base quality of intelligencer! Why, every quality in the world prefers but gain or commendation. Now for this act I am certain to be raised, and men that paint weeds to the life are praised.
Exit Bosola, and that's the end of that scene. Oh, Duchess.
Wow.
Duchess,
Wow.
Duchess.
Wow. Give him the money. Just, oh, God.
Oh,
Good
it's all starting to go pear-shaped.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who saw that coming? Let's start with Alan. And then Lynn, is that a hand? Yeah.
Right, going back to the top of the scene, we got that interesting little discussion, which is sort of semi-flirtatious almost. And that was some of the stuff that was actually excised from the version of the play that we were dealing with yesterday.
Ah.
I actually found there's about a dozen lines in there that had been excised in the original edition we got.
Yeah.
Particularly the one about, I'm just looking for the line, when Cariola says, "Fishy's the sporingest bedfellow." That one certainly wasn't in the script we were looking at yesterday.
It's playful. It's great.
I mean, it's a lovely little sequence. But then immediately after that, we've got the point when Antonio and Cariola exit, and we get the start of the soliloquy from the Duchess, the one doth not my colour of my hair begin to change. And about 4 lines into that, there's a stage direction which I think we missed.
Yes, I missed that stage direction.
Which is Ferdinand enters unseen, and that gives a little bit more nuance to the way the scene runs, I think. The other issue I got with this scene is I'm still not quite sure whose side Bosola is on, other than his own. He does seem to veer around quite a bit during the course of this whole play as to who he's actually working in the interests of.
Well, I mean, I think he knows very clearly which side his bread is buttered. It's just does he like that particular flavour of bread? That's the thing, isn't it? Really, you know, he does seem to have a few moral misgivings here and there, and really, who can blame him? But are they going to be enough to stop him from fulfilling his duty to the Cardinal and Ferdinand? We shall see. Let's not give the game away. Anyone else have anything to say? Oh no, sorry, Lynn, and then I'll come to you, Susan.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much going on. Well, I disciplined myself and didn't give this away when Sarah, you said something that made me think, oh well, that scene is coming up. So before this, we had that scene of Ferdinand just sort of losing his shit over the fact that his sisters had children he thinks out of wedlock, and his you know, his brother, who we also know is kind of wicked, and then we have this little domestic scene, and it's actually can be played very sweet. She's obviously like sitting at her dressing table or something. My hair tangles, I'm getting gray, and just sort of bantering, and she's like, "Oh, I want to sleep with you," and she's like, "Nah, nah, 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 nah. Yeah, when we can talk my brothers into being godparents, then we'll sleep together again." You know, so yeah, it's sort of flirtatious and bantering and playful, and then it just gets really ugly, where, you know, Ferdinand reveals himself and is like, don't tell me who it is, because I'll kill him. Gives her a knife and says, "Do with this like what you think will be a yeah. And you know, and then of course, you know, the momentum picks up, and she immediately thinks of this ruse to get Antonio out of danger. She's going to pretend he's been embezzling. Like, so much happens, and the contrasts, I think, are really, really masterful.
Yeah, because it does just seesaw, doesn't it? It's like, oh, this is so lovely. Oh no, this is all going pear-shaped. Oh, they've pulled it back. Oh no, she's told him. Yeah, you know, he's playing with his audience in the most kind of excessive and delightful way. Yeah, it really is great, this level of, like, you know, like pulling them one way, pushing them another. Right, Sue, you had things to say, and then Lois.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, that's very much the Beauty and the Beast thing. I mean, Bosola, there's also a sexual thing there with the Duchess, isn't there? It's like she works with all sorts of men. I mean, they can't resist her, brothers, whatever. There's definitely something about, am I right? I mean, in other productions I've seen, I mean, Brian Cox, it was very sexy between as Bosola. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know, because I've never seen it performed, so I'll take what other people's.
But I really just wanted to just mention the anchorite thing, which is really interesting to me, because I live in the most famous place for Julian of Norwich, the anchorites. Anchorites are usually women. They are buried alive on the side of a church. Do you know what they are? I mean, it's the most weird, and they have a special service when they are walled up, and they are buried alive, attached to a church, Julian of Norwich is a terribly famous anchorite, and it's women, and they basically have no food. They have to be fed through a little window if people passing by fancy it. You know, Julian of Norwich, and she wrote this book about divine love, and she is actually the only person who ever said God is the mother.
I
Anyway,
did not know that anchorites were walled in. Like, I
They
mean,
are
I knew what they
walled in.
were, but I had no idea that they were just like,
And they
yeah.
put earth on the roof. It's really freaks
Wow.
me out.
Okay.
I go often to her cell here, and it is quite extraordinary atmosphere.
Wow. Okay. I need to see that actually. I'm quite a fan of Julian of Norwich, but I've never actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're welcome anytime, Sarah.
Thank you very much. I will take you up on that option
But
one of
it's
these
saying
days.
Basically, I'm going to wall up women, and
Yeah.
they're not going to be able to have sex.
Yeah,
or even eat.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's terrible.
It gives that scene like, yeah, because thank you for that, because I didn't actually, I mean, it's not that it's not, I mean, that speech is not, you know, it's pretty, like, yeah, makes your skin crawl anyway, but that just adds to it. Yeah.
I mean, why these women would do this except for protection. Maybe they're gay, I mean, why they would allow themselves to be walled up for the rest of their lives? Is it that they've got to 38 and they're dangerous and vulnerable because they haven't got protectors?
It's a good question. What do people at home think? Please feel free to leave a comment on anchorites if you want to like continue this conversation. In the interim, I will go to Lois.
Yes, I wanted to make a couple of points about the staging because there's a stage direction clearly needs to be there, telling you that the Duchess has seen Ferdinand. I mean, she's been thinking she's talking to Antonio, who is in fact stolen out of the room, as he says, because he thinks this is a kind of joke on her. And then when he doesn't answer her after a bit, she says, what's the matter? And then either she turns and sees Ferdinand, or she's looking in a mirror and she sees him in the mirror, because she is in front of a mirror, I think. She's talking about her hair going gray and so on. And which could be really creepy because as you'll see later in the play, there are other images that involve things like mirrors. And we've had this idea of this sort of repetitions. But at any rate, I mean, it's before she says, "'Tis welcome, for know whether I am to live or die, I can do both like a prince," because she sees Ferdinand standing there with a dagger and assumes he's going to kill her.
Right.
I mean, there's quite a few places in this play where you really need stage directions.
That's thank you. That's really useful. Right. Okay. Aliki, then Alan.
I wanted to just highlight these two little bits in that scene with Ferdinand. The one where she says, "Why might not I marry? I have not gone about in this to create any new world or custom," because it's such an understandable sentiment. I'm not inventing the wheel here. Everybody gets married. Most people get married. Why not?
Yeah, I just want a regular life. Yeah.
And then immediately afterwards, or not immediately afterwards, a little bit afterwards, the one where she says, "Why should I be the only prince who's locked up like a holy relic?" I'm not getting the exact line, but that's more or less that.
Yeah.
And I mean, okay, I know Elizabeth I called herself a prince, so it's not an unfamiliar gendering, but it's such a powerful line to me, and maybe that's the modern woman in me going, yeah, right, why should you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, let's not get off on a tangent about double standards, because we've done that before, and we'll no doubt do it again, but like, no, I'm totally with you there. Yeah,
such a straightforward thing to say.
Yeah.
And then I have youth and a little beauty kind of makes my skin crawl a little bit, because it feels like she's flirting with him.
Oh, really? Is that how you took? Oh, that's interesting.
That's how I took it. I don't.
I did not take it that way, but that's fine. That's okay. Alan, I think I saw your hand, and then Lois.
Yeah, just coming back to what Lois was saying about stage direction. Stage directions we've got here are by and large from a 1900 edition of the play. But I believe Lois has said that the original printing from way back in 1600 and frozen to bits, or the manuscript has got marginal directions from Webster himself, which I don't think have actually necessarily survived into this script.
Lois.
Well, there are just a few of those, and most of them I think are going to be coming up in later scenes. I think they usually do get printed in the text, sometimes in the margin, sometimes as a footnote, depending. But I can't believe this edition wouldn't have any. I don't think there were any, in fact, in the first part of the play. But they clearly are Webster, whereas most of these stage directions are just, what somebody puts in. And it's better than nothing, because there are very few stage directions in the original, but there clearly need to be a lot more. But I think there is debate as to exactly how the Duchess sees Ferdinand, whether she just turns and sees him or sees him in the mirror. And in different productions, you can either have a very large mirror on a console, or you can have a hand mirror. It's a point of staging, really. I mean, I see Brian suggested in the chat that there should be a round one so that he stands in it. It'll be like the devil dancing in the circle again.
Oh, yeah, nice.
But in reality, mirror was incredibly expensive and very, very hard to make. So they were small mirrors with the kind of stump work round the edge or something like that. The idea of having a long one is completely, it wouldn't be appropriate for,
well, no, except so many productions of this these days are modern dress.
Modern dress,
yeah. Of course.
If it was a circular hand mirror, you could combine that lovely idea of Brian's with then also the fact that if she sees him in a hand mirror, he's got to get right up close behind her before she's going to see him, so that you could kind of layer on the creepiness there if you wanted to by making it a hand mirror. Lynn.
Yeah, it just occurred to me that we've already had a hint that Ferdinand's feelings about his sister are not healthy. And when she either moves, right, she's expecting to see her husband, but she sees her brother. That's a physical way in which her brother displacing her husband. Yeah, there's creepiness there. And I don't know if that's deliberate, but that's definitely an effect. It's going to get the audience on at least an unconscious level.
I have no idea if it's deliberate. I wouldn't put it past Webster, though. He seems to be very much in charge of this text and know exactly what he's doing with it, is my read. But I could be wrong again. Feel free to chip in the comments below, folks, if you have differing views. Right, if everyone has said what they need to say about that scene, we will move on. Act 3, Scene 3. Actually, we have spent such a long time talking about this act so far that we do actually need to get a bit of a wriggle on. So, enter Cardinal Ferdinand, Malatesti, Pescara, Delio, and Silvio.
Oh, Aliki, you're muted.
My apologies. I had scrolled back to the bit we were looking at, so now I need to find where we are again.
Page 46, if that helps.
I don't think it'll be the same.
P8.
Yeah, you can control
Yes,
F.
got it.
Okay, great.
Must we turn soldier then?
The Emperor, hearing your worth that way ere you attained this reverend garment, joins you in commission with the right fortunate soldier, the Marquis of Pescara, and the famous Lannoy.
He that had the honour of taking the French king prisoner.
The same. Here's a plot drawn for a new fortification at Naples.
This great Count Malatesti, I perceive, hath got employment.
No employment, my lord. A marginal note in the muster book that he is a voluntary lord.
He's no soldier.
He's worn gunpowder in his hollow tooth for the toothache.
He comes to the leaguer with a full intent to eat fresh beef and garlic, means to stay till the scent be gone, and straight return to court.
He hath read all the late service, as the City Chronicle relates it, and keeps 2 pewters going, only to express battles in model.
Then he'll fight by the book.
By the almanac, I think, to choose good days and shun the critical.
He protests he would do much for that. Oh, sorry,
well,
Mr.
that's his mistress' scarf.
Yes, he protests he would do much for that taffeta.
I think he would run away from a battle to save it from taking prisoner.
He is horribly afraid gunpowder will spoil the perfume on it.
I saw a Dutchman break his pate once for calling him pot gun. He made his head have a bore in it like a musket.
I would he had made a touch hole to it. He is indeed guarded sumpter cloth only for the remove of the court.
And enter Bosola.
Bosola arrived. What should be the business? Some falling out amongst the cardinals? These factions amongst great men, they are like foxes. When their heads are divided, they carry fire in their tails, and all the country about them goes to wrack for it.
Oh, sorry. What's that, Bosola?
I knew him in Padua, a fantastical scholar, like such who study to know how many knots was in Hercules' club, of what color Achilles' beard was, or whether Hector were not troubled with the toothache. He hath studied himself half clear-eyed to know the true symmetry of Caesar's nose by a shoeing horn, and this he did to gain the name of a speculative man.
Mark, Prince Ferdinand, a very salamander lives in his eye, to mock the eager violence of fire.
The Cardinal hath made more bad faces with his oppression than ever Michelangelo made good ones. He lifts up his nose like a foul porpoise before a storm.
The Lord Ferdinand laughs.
Like a deadly cannon that lightens ere it smokes.
These are your true pangs of death, the pangs of life that struggle with great statesmen.
In such a deformed silence, witches whisper their charms.
Doth she make religion her riding hood to keep her from the sun and tempest?
That damns her. Methinks her fault and beauty blended together show like leprosy, the whiter, the fouler. I make it a question whether her beggarly brats were ever christened.
I will instantly solicit the state of Ancona to have him banished.
You are for Loretto. I shall not be at your ceremony. Fare you well. Write to the Duke of Malfi, my young nephew, she had by her first husband, and acquaint him with mother's honesty.
I will.
Antonio, a slave that only smelled of ink and counters, and never in his life looked like a gentleman, but in the audit time. Go, presently. Draw me out 150 of our horse, and meet me at footbridge.
And they exit, and that is the end of that scene. However, we're going to go straight into Act 3, Scene 4, because it's quite short, and we'll take these two scenes then together. So, Act 3, Scene 4, enter 2 pilgrims to the shrine of Our Lady of Loretto.
I have not seen a goodlier shrine than this, yet I have visited many.
The Cardinal of Aragon is this day to resign his cardinal's hat. His sister, Duchess, likewise is arrived to pay her vow of pilgrimage. I expect a noble ceremony.
No question. They come.
And here the ceremony of the Cardinal's installment in the habit of a soldier performed in delivering up his cross, hat, robes and ring at the shrine and investing him with sword, helmet, shield and spurs. Then Antonio, the Duchess and their children, having presented themselves at the shrine, are by a form of banishment in dumb show expressed towards them by the Cardinal and the state of Ancona banished. During all which ceremony this ditty is sung, to very solemn music by divers churchmen, and then exeunt all except the 2 pilgrims.
Arms and honours deck thy story, to thy fame's eternal glory. Adverse fortune ever fly thee, no disastrous fate come nigh thee. I alone will sing thy praises, whom to honour virtue raises, and thy study that divine is, bent to bent to martial discipline is. Lay aside all those robes lie by thee, crown thy arts with arms, they'll beautify thee. O worthy of worthiest name, adorned in this manner, lead bravely thy forces on under war's warlike banner. Oh, mayst thou prove fortunate in all martial courses, guide thou still by skill in arts and forces, victory attend thee nigh, whilst fame sings loud thy powers, triumphant conquest crown thy head, and blessings pour down showers.
Here's a strange turn of state. Who would have thought so great a lady would have matched herself unto so mean a person? Yet the Cardinal bears himself much too cruel.
They are banished.
But I would ask, what power hath the state of Ancona to determine a free prince?
They are a free state, sir. And her brother showed how that the Pope, forehearing of her looseness, had seized into the protection of the church the dukedom, which she held as a dowager.
What was this?
Sure, I think by none, only her brother's instigation.
What was it with such violence he took off from her finger?
'Twas her wedding ring, which he vowed shortly he would sacrifice to his revenge.
Ah, alas, Antonio, if that man be thrust into a well, no matter who sets hand to it, his own weight will bring him sooner to the bottom. Come, let's hence. Fortune makes this conclusion general. All things do help the unhappy man to fall.
And they exit, and that's the end of that little scene. So, the Cardinal has struck. Let's go straight to Lois.
Yeah, well, this is one place where Webster definitely did leave a marginal note, which isn't in here, and it's beside the song, and it says, "The author disclaimeth this ditty to be his." In other words, Webster said, "I didn't write this."
Right, but he so he didn't write it, but he knew about it. So there's okay. So what's the theory then behind that? That the theatre added it in, or?
Well, he clearly, I mean, quite a lot of business is being done in a dumb show instead of in dialogue. And they may have decided to put in more spectacle here, because there's quite an elaborate ceremony of the Cardinal turning from a churchman into a military man, which is obviously a big, very symbolic for what's happening in the play. And maybe they insisted on it, and Webster thought, oh, come on, did we have to make this a musical comedy? But who knows?
I agree. It's pretty dull. It sounds churchy and dull.
You see, though,
it's not his.
It depends on the tune that they use, but I think because I was going to say, oh, that's really clever, because like the song is actually quite sort of, it's sort of like, oh yeah, look at this, look to whom to honor virtue raises, and by that study that divine is, the song is quite sort of elevating. And it's like, oh, worthy of worthiest. And then you've actually got all this being sung while there's this terrible scene of banishment going on stage. I thought he'd done that on purpose to kind of, raise the stakes and up the ante for the audience, like getting the contrast between the two. But clearly he wasn't doing that at all. Thanks to Lois. We know that now.
It may not be negative. I mean, he may be just saying, don't give me credit for this.
Oh, true.
It's surprising he doesn't name who did write it. But
anyway. True. But either way, it's a fascinating. The fact that he, I wasn't here yesterday, and it's a long time since I read this play. Did I miss? There aren't any dumb shows in the first. No. So this is it. This is it so far. So it's really interesting that he chose to put it in here. Anyway, let me go around the room. I'll go to Lynn and then Alan. Yes.
Yeah, I would not have guessed that the song was interpolated at some point. I really enjoyed the irony that we were singing this sort of cute little song about, oh, we hope you're so great, we hope you're successful in war, oh, you're so, about this cardinal who we know is just so venal, and cruel, and so I think the irony is really powerful.
Yeah, Yeah, certainly that was the way I took it, but I guess it just depends on the production. As always, it just depends on the production, how they choose to do it. Alan, you had
Yeah,
thoughts?
I was going back to the previous scene
Yes.
actually,
Mm.
when you've got Malatesta, who basically, from the sounds of it, is an aristocratic waste of space.
Bad head.
And you then get the entrance of Bosola and Silvio's line, "What's that, Bosola?"
Mhm.
And then Delio's response, "I knew in Pajor, a fantastical scholar, blurdy blurdy blur," which feels more to me like someone's describing Malatesta rather than Bosola, who I don't think anyone would describe as being scholastic
Yeah.
from his previous appearances, but would possibly fit with a slightly effete noble dilettante.
Do you have anything to say about that, Lois?
Well, yeah, it is odd. I mean, Bosola must have been at university before he somehow got involved in the world of murder and then was sent to the galleys because he's just come out of jail pretty much when the play starts. But it's perfectly possible. I mean, that Webster decided to stick in a bit of satire on scholars here. I don't know that Malatesta is a scholar at all. He doesn't strike me. I mean, they're depicting him just as well. The Duchess said earlier that he's a mere stick of sugar candy. And he's supposed to be the one they want her to marry for some reason, and everybody is making fun of him here. So it's not very promising.
Indeed. Right. Okay. Anyone got anything to add? Otherwise, if not, we will press on into the final scene of Act 3. Act 3, Scene 5. Enter Duchess Antonio with the children, Cariola and servants. Oh, and just to flag up, Rachel has had to leave us. So for this scene, Mark is going to step in and play Antonio. Thank you very much, Mark.
Banished, Ancona.
Yes, you see what power lightens in great men's breath.
Is all our train shrunk to this poor remainder?
These poor men which have got little in your service vow to take your fortune, but your wives, your buntings, now they are fledged, are gone.
They have done wisely. This puts me in mind of death. Physicians thus, with their hands full of money, used to give o'er their patients.
Right the fashion of the world. From decayed fortunes every flatterer shrinks. Men cease to build where their foundation sinks.
I had a very strange dream tonight.
What was't?
Methought I wore my coronet of state, and on a sudden all the diamonds were changed to pearls.
My interpretation is you'll weep shortly, for to me the pearls do signify your tears.
The birds that live in the field on the wild benefit of nature live happier than we, for they may choose their mates and carol their sweet pleasures to the spring.
Enter Bosola with a letter.
You are happily o'ertaken.
From my brother.
Yes, from the Lord Ferdinand, your brother. All love and safety.
Thou dost blanch mischief and wouldst make it white. See, like to calm weather at sea before a tempest, false hearts speak fair to those they intend most mischief. Send Antonio to me. I want his head in a business. A politic equivocation. He does not want your counsel, but your head. That is, he cannot sleep till you be dead. Oh, and here's another pitfall that's strewed o'er with roses. Mark it, 'tis a cunning one. I stand engaged for your husband for several debts at Naples. Let not that trouble him. I had rather have his heart than his money. And I believe so too.
What do you believe?
That he so much distrusts my husband's love, he will by no means believe his heart is with him until he see it. The devil is not cunning enough to circumvent us in riddles.
Will you reject that noble and free league of amity and love which I present you?
Their league is like that of some politic kings, only to make themselves of strength and power to be our after ruin. Tell them so.
And what from you?
Thus tell him, I will not come.
And what of this?
My brothers have dispersed bloodhounds abroad, which till I hear are muzzled. No truce, though hatched with ne'er such politic skill, is safe, that hangs upon our enemies' will. I'll not come at them.
This proclaims your breeding. Every small thing draws a base mind to fear, as the adamant draws iron. Fare ye well, sir. You shall hear from us shortly.
And exit Bosola.
I suspect some ambush. Therefore, by all my love, I do conjure you to take your eldest son and fly towards Milan. Let us not venture all this poor remainder in one unlucky bottom.
You counsel safely. Best of my life, farewell. Since we must part, heaven hath a hand in it, but no otherwise than as some curious artist takes in sunder a clock or watch when it is out of frame, to bring it in better order.
I know not which is best, to see you dead or part with you. Farewell, boy. Thou art happy that thou hast not understanding to know thy misery. For all our wit and reading brings us to a truer sense of sorrow. In the eternal church, sir, I do hope we shall not part thus.
Be of comfort. Make patience a noble fortitude, and think not how unkindly we are used. Man, like to Cassia, has proved best being bruised.
Must I, like to slave-born Russian, account it praise to suffer tyranny? And yet, O heaven, thy heavy hand is in't. I've seen my little boy oft scourge his top, and compared myself to it. Naught made me e'er go right, but heaven's scourge stick.
Do not weep. Heaven fashioned us of nothing, and we strive to bring ourselves to nothing. Farewell, Cariola, and thy sweet armful. If I do never see thee more, be a good mother to your little ones, and save them from the tiger. Fare you well.
Let me look upon you once more, for that speech came from a dying father. Your kiss is colder than that I've seen a holy anchorite give to a dead man's skull.
My heart is turned to a heavy lump of lead, with which I sound my danger. Fare you well.
And exit Antonio and his son.
My laurel is all withered.
Look, madam, what a troop of armed men make towards us.
Enter Bosola vizarded with a guard.
Oh, they are very welcome. When fortune's wheel is overcharged with princes, the weight makes it move swift. I would have my ruin be sudden. I am your adventure, am I not?
You are. You must see your husband no more.
What devil art thou that counterfeitst heaven's thunder?
Is that terrible? I would have you tell me whether whether is that note worse that frights the silly birds out of the corn, or that which doth allure them to the nets. You have hearkened to the last too much.
Oh, misery, like to a rusty o'ercharged cannon, shall I never fly in pieces? Come, to what prison?
To none.
Whither then?
To your palace.
I've heard that Charon's boat serves to convey all o'er the dismal lake, but brings none back again.
Your brothers mean you safety and pity.
Pity? With such a pity, men preserve alive pheasants and quails when they are not fat enough to be eaten.
These are your children.
Yes.
Can they prattle?
No. But I intend, since they were born accursed, curses shall be their first language.
Fie, madam, forget this base, low fellow.
Were I a man, I'd beat that counterfeit face into thy other.
One of no birth?
Say that he was born mean. Man is most happy when his own actions be arguments and examples of his virtue.
A barren, beggarly virtue.
I prithee, who is greatest? Can you tell? Sad tales befit my woe. I'll tell you one. A salmon, as she swam unto the sea, met with a dogfish, who encounters her with this rough language. Why art thou so bold to mix thyself with our high state of floods, being no eminent courtier, but one that for the calmest and fresh time of the year dost live in shallow rivers, rank'st thyself with silly smelts and shrimps? And darest thou pass by our dog-ship without reverence? Oh, quoth the salmon, sister, be at peace. Thank Jupiter we both have passed the net. Our value never can be truly known till in the fisher's basket we be shown. In the market, then, my price may be the higher, even when I am nearest to the cook and fire. So, to great men, the moral may be stretched. Men oft are valued high when they're most wretched. But come, whither you please, I am armed 'gainst misery, bent to all sways of the oppressor's will. There's no deep valley, but near some great hill.
And they all exit. That's the end of the scene and also the end of the act. So, oh my
Well
goodness
done,
me.
Lois. I love that speech.
Yeah,
So great.
fabulous
Yes.
speech.
There's no deep valley, but near some great hill. That really is so wonderful.
But it's so weird. I mean, both Ferdinand and the Duchess, just stop the action to tell stories or fables. It's another of these very artificial devices in a quite emotional scene.
I don't know though. It doesn't seem clumsy at all. I didn't think so anyway. But I guess again, I guess it depends on who's playing the role. Let's start. Whose hands did I see go up? Lynn, let's start with you.
I have never understood the parable of the salmon and the dogfish. Does someone want to gloss that?
Lois, everyone's looking at you.
Well, I think it is pretty much what she says it is. That you're tested really when you're nearest to the cook and fire. I mean, these two fish, the one that seems the more powerful and important, may not be so when they're actually being so. I mean, it's really a notion of the Last Judgment, I think. They in the fisher's basket, or in the market, whose price will be the higher, and it's quite different from what they may have been in life. I mean, it's part of the argument against, she. It's a reversal of the argument she had earlier with Bosola, when he was saying that Antonio was a good man, and in spite of his low birth, and whether he was putting this act on for her benefit or whether he really thought so is I think quite interesting. And then here Bosola, in disguise, he's wearing a visor or something, says exactly the opposite. He was of low birth, and then the Duchess argues that on the contrary, his value may be much greater than that of people who seem greater.
But I think the key to it is like after death. Yeah, it's not that value judgment isn't made until after you've been put in the basket, so to speak.
Yeah, but after you've been put on trial, I mean, after something horrible has happened too, I think that they're being tested. Yeah.
I think it's kind of hopeful, though, that last line. There's no deep valley, but near some great hill. I mean, it will come out. It sometimes is taxing, but it will be better. Please.
Yeah, you've got to love her optimism, haven't you?
Positive. Yes.
Yeah, bless her.
And yet we know she's.
Well, no, we don't. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen to her yet. She's been taken off to prison, but who knows what's going to happen? Maybe Antonio will mount a rescue and come charging in on a white horse, and everything will be fine, and it'll all end happily ever after. Alan.
I think house arrest rather than prison is probably a more appropriate description.
Yes.
Or that's the putative end of it. I'm still having trouble working out what Bosola's character is really about and what his motivations are, because he does really turn on a sixpence on a lot of occasions. He will argue both sides of the question quite happily.
Yeah, I think that is intentional, though, isn't it? Because we want the audience to like not know like what's coming, like how's he going to act, like which way is he going to jump ultimately. But it's absolutely the case that you can't pin him down. He's a very ambiguous character. Aliki.
I think that's the whole point of him, Alan. I've been looking up etymology, and I don't know how much Italian Webster knew, but Cariola meant cradle, and she's kind of the closest to the nurse of the children, maybe, or something like that. And Bosola is a compass that spins to show different directions. It's not quite the same, but it's close.
Huh.
That's
Interesting.
fabulous.
But he was a
Lois.
historical character as well. I mean, there actually was a Daniel de Bosola. Yeah, I mean, a number of these things are historical. It's also a historical setting. I mean, this was the Holy Roman Empire invading Italy, and that's why the Ferdinand and the Cardinal are Spanish. I mean, they're the Aragonian brethren.
Yeah. So yes, invading Amalfi.
Yeah. And therefore the Duchesses too. I mean, they were really pretty much occupying Italy at this point. As some Italian plays of the period have comic Spaniards in them, and it's probably, it's a way of getting back at the occupying country.
Yes, indeed. Anyone else got anything to say? I quite like the fact that the Duchess was like so like switched on to dramatic irony. You know, when she's reading her brother's letter and it's like, oh, he wants your head. Yeah, he totally wants your head. Oh, like he put this in your heart. Oh yeah, he totally wants to, like, he wants to take your heart and eat it. She didn't actually say that, but that was very much the gist. I do like. I mean, the Duchess, she is a really, really sympathetic character throughout the play, but one of the reasons why she's so sympathetic, and again I think this is why it works so well for a modern audience, is that she's just so switched on. She's not some kind of fool for love. She really is.
She was pretty stupid earlier on, wasn't she? When she'd had a couple of kisses, it's like, did her brain go funny because she kissed? That first scene where she's sort of a bit daft, whereas here she's so succinct. Yeah,
I don't know. What like earlier on in this session, you mean, or
when the scene where she suddenly gives him her jewelry, and she's a bit of a daft woman.
do you think?
Mean because
she's not in this scene?
No, I don't. I don't know that she's that daft. I mean, she's with the man she loves, and then he tiptoes out, and then the next thing we know, she's with her brother. That you mean the way where she kisses Antonio in that scene? I mean she's with the man she loves. So and trusts, and her husband, in fact. So I mean, I don't know that I'd. Anyway, let's move on. But certainly in this scene, she is definitely she is one smart cookie, and it just makes me admire her more, at least. Mark, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Susan, are you talking about like the fact that she gives all the money to Bosola, she trusts him, the person not to trust?
Oh, right. Like, because the fact that she, she does.
I was gonna say, to me, I mean, I wasn't here yesterday, and it's been a long time since I've read this play, so I don't remember too many details. But to me, on the page as we're reading it, it reads as believable to me that she, she sees four random people talking about like, oh yeah, that guy sucks, that guy was terrible, all because he's now all of a sudden been published as, accused of bad things, and everyone's turning on him. So, she really puts Bosola to the test on being like, he's terrible, right? And he's like, no, he's great. Like, I feel like depending on how it's done, it can read as a very convincing lie. So yeah, I mean, but that's a very, very good point, is that if it's not a very convincing lie, it makes her seem kind of stupid, and that, changes everything about how we interpret her character elsewhere.
There's definitely something to be said for like when you're up against it, and you can't confide in anyone, when you find what you suddenly think is an ally, the relief of that is perhaps going to make you be slightly foolhardy. I mean, I do think it depends on. It's a fair point, but I do think it depends on how it's played, and I'm with Mark here. I think she's sort of, and also you've got to remember that Bosola by this point has been in her service for 3 years.
At least,
so,
right?
Yeah. So like, he's it's not like he's just some new person. I mean, he's been there in the background, presumably doing, faithful service as master of the horse or whatever it is he is. I wasn't here yesterday, so I can't remember. I've just made that up. I don't know if he's not master of the horse, but whatever it is, he is. Yeah, so I think that for him to be there in the background serving her, and then for him to suddenly say this, and because she does test him, and he's like, no, he's a bang up guy. He's one of the good ones. You can imagine that the relief of actually having supposedly found someone would make her. It's not a smart thing that she does there, but I do think it's understandable in the circumstances. Lois,
Yeah, I think, it's part of the interpretation of Bosola, obviously, whether you want to make him clearly hypocritical in that being just, realizing that she was rather annoyed at hearing the other people talk and therefore playing the opposite card, or that he really believes all that. I mean, the impression one gets is that he hates the job he's doing and that he rather admires her for what she's done. I mean, it's taken him this long to find out who the father of her children is, and the idea that, for one thing, he and Antonio are kind of parallel characters. I mean, at the beginning of the play, there is that bit where when the Cardinal says, use Bosola as your intelligence, or Ferdinand says, oh, why not Antonio? And the Cardinal says, no, he's too honest. But the idea that, they were both possibilities at that point, I think that Bosola does perhaps see in Antonio what he could have been. And that may be why he's really speaking quite sincerely, which is why the Duchess reacts to it with absolute rapture. I mean, how nice to hear somebody finally saying something nice about the man she loves.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Susan, I'm going to come to you, but I also want you to combine whatever it is you're about to say with your final thought, because we have to wrap up now. So
I just
go.
love that bit when he's bitchy about Antonio being a bit like an accountant, only exciting when he's doing the audit. Brilliant.
There's some serious shade going on there, isn't there? Yeah. Did you have any final thoughts, Sue? Are you? Yeah. Okay, good. Let's go around the room then for very quick final thoughts, please. Mark, I'll come to you.
Bad Brother is bad. I don't remember exactly where this play goes, so I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's find out what happens in the next session. Join us next time for Act 4. Meanwhile, Alan, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, given that it's a tragedy, we've got to the end of Act 3 and nobody's actually died yet.
True.
To get the body count up, I suspect the next two acts are going to have to be fairly bloody.
You might need your cushion, folks. Lynn, let me come to you.
Plastic apron.
Yeah, but quite possibly. Lynn, let me come to you.
Yeah, it's sort of in bouncing off of Alan. Yeah, that's what we're expecting. Is a really high body count. We're always going to buy it. But I think really that for me, as my temperament and my context as a 21st century person, is I think maybe what's most tragic for me is the undermining of the private relationship. Is that they just want to have a life. They just want to have children and be together. They just care about each other. They just want to have a healthy relationship. They just want to be happy, and they can't. And I think it's the destruction of the marriage and the destruction of their love that's really wrenching. I mean, the physical death that seems inevitable is shocking in everything. But I think that the fact that that they care about each other and their marriage is what's destroyed is that sort of extra layer of heartbreak.
Yeah, I do think that dumb show could really be quite heart-wrenching depending on how it was done. Yeah, it's a good point. Emma, your final thoughts, please.
Yes, it was really interesting reading Ferdinand today. I think as an actor you need to work out how did he get to that point and what's going on with him. He's completely loopy, and his language is his language has got so much energy. I actually find it hard to get my mouth around some of it, and there's so much alliteration as well. He's almost P's and T's. He's almost spitting a lot of his lines, and he seems to be in the language he uses associated with fire quite a lot. I think as an actor, you could have some fun with maybe playing with the physicality of fire and then trying to internalize that into the character.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Lots going on.
Lots going on. Really, quite a fabulous part for now. Lots of fabulous parts for actors in this play. Brian, let me come to you. Final thoughts, please.
Yeah, was focused mostly on Bosola, and you've all pretty much commented on that. But I was quite puzzled, and I'm quite taken with Lois's remark that there's a parallel between him and Antonio, and that's unlocking some things for me. When the Duchess turns to him and asks, "What do you think of these fellows?" and he compares them all to lice that suck blood and then drop off. That's how he described himself in the opening, only it was as a leech. And he said at the very beginning, when he compares Ferdinand and the Cardinal to plum trees over a stream that no one can get to the fruit, he says if he could, he would be a leech and suck the blood and then drop off. So here he is saying that the people who flattered Antonio, who is like him, are like the way he wished he was. And there's so much irony in this, so much potential for appreciation of what Antonio has accomplished, that I now see a way I think this is what Lois said, that praise for Antonio is completely genuine and driven out of his own sense of who he is. And if there's a parallel between them, I think it extends to the Duchess. And Bosola hasn't attempted or isn't going to attempt anything, it's really so far. But I think he sympathizes with Antonio's attraction to her. And that also plays into the way he responds to her. And that can be part of what she senses in him that makes her think she can trust him.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, thank you very much. Aliki, your final thought, please.
Too many. I'm really taken with the chewiness of the language and on the one hand, pretty plausible psychology, despite the extremes it hits, and the other these set piece speeches with their morals and I'll tell you what it is. I love a tragedy. And when Alan reminded us that this is one and that there is an inevitable comeuppance heading our way, I was upset. I'm really quite keen to have all of the bloodthirsty stuff. And I don't take these characters seriously as people, but I really like these people. And I'm sorry that everything in the play seems to be saying it's going to go very badly for them.
Yeah, it's really like, considering, that this is a very courtly play. These are all like, noble people. I think Webster does a great job of just creating this really beautiful, simple, and genuine relationship. In just not many scenes, not many speeches. He's just managed to create something that we do believe in and we're kind of rooting for. And I am in agreement with you. Lois, let me finish with you. Your final thoughts, please.
Well, again, I would have an awful lot, obviously, because I'm very fond of this play. But the sort of point that Brian was making about the language and the parallels is the kind of thing that interests me. It's also one reason, of course, why this play tends to be on a lot of university syllabuses, because it is in some ways very literary. I mean, you can really do a lot of analysis of the language, and especially in the days when imagery was the main thing people looked at. That was sort of around the time I started teaching. This is an absolutely ideal play for it. You can just keep going through it and finding more and more interesting patterns of imagery. And clearly Webster's mind worked in that way. In some ways, it's both what makes it a great play and yet also what makes it a difficult one to stage, because you really just can't get it all in performance. And what tends to come out in performance, I think, is more perhaps more sensationalism, alternating with moments of quite familiar sort of tenderness, like the scene in the bedchamber before Ferdinand breaks in. So it is a difficult one to do, I think, because of this. And the funny sort of balance of things. The Webster likes humorous bits. Really quite odd, jokey bits and dirty jokes and so on. Quite often at points where you just wouldn't expect something like that.
Yeah, one for a director who really has a real commitment, passion for this play, and a vision for how they want to direct it, how they, the choices that they want to do with it to bring out, one thing or another. Yeah, chewy, as I think Aliki said. Really, really
And
fantastic.
Don't forget the pomegranates and the mulberries, and I
Yeah.
love all the fruit and veg. I just want to see an embroidery of all the fruit and vegetables and foxes and fire, and it's so colourful. It is. I agree with Lois. In performance, I think if I'm honest, I've been slightly disappointed more than reading it. Heaven, what's going on here today was terrific.
There's a directing challenge, if ever I heard one. Right, and I shall be henceforth referring to this play as Webster's Fruit and Veg play. Most definitely. So join us next time for part 3 of Webster's Fruit and Veg play, where we will dive into Act 4. All that remains for me today is to say thank you very much to our wonderful cast of readers. Thank you very much, everyone, for both your readings and your amazing thoughts. We'll see you again next time. Bye. This puts me in mind of death.